Hello everybody and welcome to another Train Sim World 6 video. Today with a bit of a twist. I recently watched a video from DC 4260 Productions and I just got halfway through watching a video from Maffarick, which was their opinions on the state of the game and why it pisses them off, essentially, to put it in a dull way, essentially. And I thought, I've had this idea in my head for a while, but I've always held back from it. And do you know what? Making TSW videos is becoming increasingly difficult. It's hard to want to play a game that I know is just going to be have tons and tons and tons of issues. But I've prepared about a 5-page script of topics. And I'm going to go through them all today and explain why they do my head in. But yeah, I've had to make this video because, much like Maffarick and much like DC 4260 Productions, I will link both their videos in the description. Thanks mate, just get right in my shot. But yeah, I'm severely pissed off. I mean, TSW is broken. Nobody can deny that. It just is. The game, like, what pisses me off is the fact that the game is so fundamentally broken, but every single... I think this is going straight through. Hello, HST. The game is so fundamentally broken, but every single year they will release a new version of the game. Think about that development time they've wasted making a new game, copying everything over to the new game that could have been spent fixing the bugs that we've been reporting for years. Because, and they're always going on about, oh, report blurry textures, report bugs. What's the point? Nobody listens. And when they do give you criticism, is it ever taken on board? No. You complain that your player base is giving you criticism, which you asked for and which you know about, but instead of doing anything about it, it's must be funny in a rich man's world. Well, that's my opinion about it anyway. And that's one thing I do have to mention. This video is all my opinion. If you disagree with my opinion, fine. If you have a different opinion, drop it in the comments. But if you can't respect someone's opinion, leave. Find somewhere else to be. That's all I ask. Yeah, think about all that development time that was wasted, that could have spent fixing the core game rather than making a brand new broken one. A new game that promises loads of features that are always broken. And let's start off with one, for example. Temporary speed restrictions. When they launched, the signs were facing the wrong way.
Platform 1 for the 10.
How does that pass testing? How can a sign facing the wrong way pass testing? How can the people that test this game, if there is anybody, go, yeah, that's good, let's release it, guys, you know, doing a cracking job like always. And another thing about temporary speed restrictions, I have them on normal, I think. Let me check, let me double check. HUD and gameplay, is it in HUD and gameplay? Suspension, no. What about general? Enabled. Temporary speed restriction. Okay, I've got it on high. I'm actually going to put those on not. Oh, I'm going to keep that one on high actually, because I quite like that one. But still, why is it happening every run? It shouldn't happen every run on high. Every run on high. No, every time you use TSRs on high, it should be 1 in 5 runs, if that. And another thing with the TSRs, why is it only 40 miles an hour? TSRs, you could have any speed, really. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Like along this route, all the time. We are currently at Dawlish, which is very fitting. Constantly during the stormy season, this C will crash over that wall and onto the tracks, and they'll put a TSR in place of 15, 20 miles an hour, whatever they think is appropriate. But in this game, you'll only ever see a 40, and there'll never be anybody working near. So you have a TSR for nothing. Literally nothing. There is no reason for that TSR to be in place because there's no workers around. But yeah, I'm just going to get a quick sip of my drink. Now let's look at random faults. When they launched, they were happening way too frequently. Especially on this route, the 150, let's say. Every single time you'd done a 150 service on this route, you'd get about 3 or 4 engine stalls between each stop. Now it's a little bit less frequent, which is good. But the door faults still happen way too frequently, and that would be a guard's problem, not a driver's problem. But in the game, obviously, it's the driver's problem to go fix that. Which, make of that what you will. Obviously the driver would have to, I'm assuming, either reset the door, isolate the door. They'd have to do something to the door, and they'd have to obviously report it. Yeah. Announcements. Now I really like announcements, whether that be platform announcements or the on-train announcements. I think they're really cool, and I like that the AI that they use does actually pay their voice actors, so it's almost like an ethical AI, if you know what I mean. But laziness will strike again. Why do West Midlands Railway / London North Western Railway use the same announcement lady as GWR? Why? They just wouldn't. And I think the main point of this video is, I think Dovetail in the next coming months will clearly lay out their priorities, because the game has never been in as bad of a state as it has been now. It's at its worst state, and I don't think anybody can disagree with that. But will they still continue to make another game? Will there be TSW 7 in the summertime? If there's not, and we stick with TSW 6, and they say that they couldn't make another game because, you know, there's too many problems with this one, and making another game wouldn't make that any better, that would give me hope. But if they just go, oh yeah, TSW 7 is coming out soon, that would just not give me any hope at all. Now let's go on to a TSW 5 feature. So we're going a game back at this point, and this feature is still not fixed. It's still nowhere near perfect. Guard mode. Why is it in peak times, so between, I want to say 7 AM and 9:30 AM and 4 PM and 6 PM, I think, why is it that passengers will still use off-peak tickets in peak time? Now if it's an off-peak return being used during peak time in the evening, that's fine. But an off-peak ticket in the morning peak, that's a no-go in real life. But if you told them the ticket wasn't valid, the game would be like, no. And another thing, why is it when they're making... I had one person's ticket. They were going from Blackpool, this was on Blackpool branches, they were going from Blackpool to Penzance. A totally valid journey, a long journey, don't get me wrong. By the time they got to Paddington, it probably would have been Hitachi trains after they'd been on their pacer. They'd probably travelled through time. But, yeah, why would that be invalid? You know, the game told me that was not valid. Why not? Got a completely valid ticket, making a completely valid journey. but it's not valid according to the game. Just like when you're on West Coast Main Line South, and you've got someone that has a ticket from London Euston to Birmingham, the game will say it's not valid. Of course it's fucking valid. That train is literally going to Birmingham. Or even if it wasn't, change at Milton Keynes or something. Let's just let the announcement finish.
For the 10:14 Great Western Railway service to Paynton.
Now this is where the video is going to contain some language of the colourful kind. Blurry textures. Tell me why the fuck I have paid 500 quid's worth of DLC, possibly 6, 7, 8, 900 pounds of DLC into this game, just for the game, just for the trains. You know, I've paid all that money on the train games, and the trains look like Mario Kart Wii characters. Like, I'm driving a 350, not Bowser. You know, if I wanted to go drive Bowser on Rainbow Road, I'd play Mario Kart. I wouldn't play TSW. But that's what it looks like I'm driving. When you come out of Birmingham on this, I'm on an Xbox Series S, so this is a Gen 9 console with a little bit less memory. Which, okay, fair enough. I'm going to experience it more than others. And maybe I should have bought an Xbox Series S if I didn't want those problems. But why? Like, why? And don't get me wrong, they have got apparently an actual engineer working on this now, so hopefully that will get fixed. But it's just disappointing. When you come out of Birmingham on Birmingham's Crew, and Birmingham's Crew is the worst route for it, you literally come out of the tunnels at Birmingham, probably a mile later, it'll be blurry. It's awful. And one thing I've spotted recently that's mostly on the Cardiff City network and this route. Should we let these two trains go by? Yeah, I think we should. So we'll wait for these next two trains to go by. So I'm going to go to the point after this. So we'll sort of come back to this point. Manchester Airport commuter. The signals on the airport branch are broken. In the game, they'll be, on the HUD, they'll probably be displaying as yellow or double yellow. But as you come to the airport, it will display at red. Why? It shouldn't be displaying at red. It should be displaying at double yellow. And apparently, a patch has been ready since December. But it hasn't been released because DTG haven't published it yet. Here we go, Voyager. So yeah, DTG have been hiding patches. Let's go to Dawlish Warren. Right? Because this is where it happens most. Or this is an example where I can show you the previous point. So if I tried going to the opposite platform, I can't leave the station. And there's a thing here that says go to the opposite platform. But this is Train Sim World. A game where we're meant to be able to get out of our train and explore the world around us. But I can't even leave the platform. And I have to press this just to go to the opposite platform. And vice versa. Why? Why? I don't get it. We're meant to be able to explore the world. But I can't even leave the station. There's a really cool theme park, fairground thing here. Why can't I go see that? There's some train carriages down there. Why can't I go and see that? I'll tell you why. Because this route was rushed, ready for release of Train Sim World 6. Now this route is amazing. Like, there's no doubt about that. This route's probably a 7, 8 out of 10. It's got everything you could want. But still, we can't leave the platform. You can tell that Rivet First of all, this isn't even a Dovetail product, this is a Rivet product, and the fact it's marketed as being developed and published by Dovetail really angers me. Because they're taking credit for somebody else's work. Don't get me wrong, Rivet would have been paid for this work. It might be that they have a stake of sales, it might be that they have, you know, they might have got paid a certain amount to do this. But it really winds me up that like we can't go exploring this because the route was rushed, ready for release of a game. Because it had to meet a release date, and my word was it poor when it released. Let's go back to Dawlish now. Because I like Dawlish more than Dawlish Warren. So let's go back to Dawlish. Nice. Should we spot on the bridge? Yeah, why not? What sort of views can you get from the bridge? Fairly decent ones. Yeah, let's sit here. This is really nice. Yeah, really, really nice. There's a YouTuber called Joe Dobson. I'm going to wait for this announcement to finish. So yeah, there's a YouTuber called Joe Dobson. And when he done a video, a sponsored video, on the Glossop line for DTG, it was his first video on the Glossop line, and you know, because he's from that area, DTG sponsored him to promote it. Fair enough. DTG told him not to mention the fact that the concourse wasn't modelled in Piccadilly. DTG told him that, because he admitted it in the next video. He said, I didn't mention the fact that the concourse wasn't modelled at Piccadilly because they asked him not to. And he said, make of that what you will, bills have got to be paid somehow, which is fair enough. If they're paying, I wouldn't reject a sponsored video from from DTG. Not that they're ever going to offer me one. And he confirmed that in his last night's stream, as of recording this, which was a Voyager stream. I think he said that while he was approaching York, or he was in York. Now let's move on to the next bit, which is the bit that annoys me the most. The constant corner cuts / cash grabs. And let's start with the most recent one. The Great British Railway 802. So the only 802s that run on the East Coast Main Line so far are the Hull Trains 802s and the Transpennine Express 802s, but the East Coast Main Line route we have in game, it's just it would just be the Hull Trains ones that would be playable if they were there. Hull Trains are an open access operator. Great British Railways are not taking over the open access operators. They're only taking over the big ones. So like LNER is one that they'd take over. So why did we get a GBR 802? Because the 802s on the East Coast Main Line won't be in GBR livery, they'll be in Hull Trains livery. So why didn't we just get that? Do you know what I mean? Why couldn't we have had a Hull Trains 802? I'd have happily paid 12 quid for that, as annoying as that would have been for them to have resold another Hitachi product, which would have been the 4th Hitachi product in game. But the GBR livery, it just seems so awful. Such an awful DLC, and the fact that they took existing Creators Club liveries off to be like, oh yeah, you know, it's because of licensing. No, it was because we wanted money and we didn't want people to get the free version when they'd have to pay for ours. Again, make of that what you will. Riviera Line and East Coast Main Line. Both brilliant routes, but they're both missing the LNER and GWR Class 800s. Now, the LNER services on East Coast Main Line, services that go to Lincoln, the services that go to places like Aberdeen, and all Inverness, the places LNER used to go in Scotland, because I don't think they do anymore, those need 800s, but they're replicated as 801s, and they shouldn't be. It should be an 800. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad we have it, because it makes sense for that section at least, but it wouldn't make sense for the whole route. But why the 800? Because they could have made work easier for themselves. Because if they'd made the 800 for ECML, they could have also made the 800 for Riviera. And they wouldn't have had to have made the 801 or 802 if they chose not to. But they could have just made the copy and paste job easier, because that's what they always do, copy and paste. So why has the 800 been left out? Now the next one. We have the Class 700/0 for South Eastern High Speed. But where's the Class 700/1 for Brighton Mainline? Apparently there was memory issues preventing this from being able to happen on the console. But knowing what we know now about blurry textures, it's probably possible. But why didn't they just include the Dash 1 in the DLC anyway? You know, they could have included the Dash 1 in the DLC, so that we could have used it in free roam mode. But, hey. And we have the Class 220 in the game, which came with this route. Or it didn't come with this route, it was a DLC for this route, and now a couple of others. Namely Birmingham to Crewe, Birmingham Cross City, and Manchester Airport Commuter. Why no Class 221? I'd have happily paid £15 for both the 220 and the 221 instead of the £12.99 for just the 220. And yes, they would have to add an extra coach and probably remodel the cab to, you know, for the tilting equipment. Not that the tilting equipment is used, but they would have to. But yeah, that one also got my ears a little bit. It's not as bad as the 800 missing, but it's not great either. The Class 805 DLC. It's a DLC including the Class 805, cool. But the 807 is going to be packaged with a route. In my opinion, they had to do this one or two ways. Way one, include both the 805 and the 807 in the DLC. Way 2, include both the 805 and 807 with Trent Valley. But no, they've packaged the 805 separately to the 807 just to have an excuse of making a DLC. And this is all aboard Studios, this isn't Dovetail I'm going at, so I'm not just going at Dovetail here. That person's floating on those stairs. Watch him. He's now sinking, he's now floating. Make of that what you will. By the way, I will say this station is beautiful. So why is the 805 and the 807 being sold separately? Because they're literally the same train, just one has two more carriages. I don't know. Now, I've done a lot of ranting. But let me just say, when this game works, it's lovely. I love playing this game. On routes like this especially. This game is incredible on a few routes, and I'm going to name some that I think are incredible. West Coast Mainline Shap by Just Trains. Piece of art. 1986 British Rail Electric Mainline goodness. And the Class 86, it annoys me that it's so expensive, but it's a bloody good DLC. West Coast Mainline South. It's not the best performance, and in fact I can't even do a run into Houston without the game crashing. But it's a lovely route. Suffragette Line. Brilliant route. Really, really nice metro style service, beautiful scenery, nice speed limits, and a really nice 710 included. Southeastern High Speed. Really, really nice. Constant trains going through the classic lines and that little bit of HS1. It's really non-linear. You get loads of service variation. You can drive the 375, 465, 395 and the 700 if you're in the DLC, and the 66. And possibly even soon to be a 70, maybe. I don't know if the 70 runs now. It does with Colas Rail occasionally, I think. Midland Mainline. A Skyhook Games piece of gold is the Midland Mainline. I don't play it much. Probably because it's a bit short. But it is a really good route. Really nice HST included. Really nice sounds. And a really, 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 really good... well, if they updated it to include the 170 and 220 for cross-country, it'd be awesome. It comes a HST. Birmingham Cross City, with the 170 timetable, really, really nice. You can drive multiple operators, multiple units, on multiple different service patterns. And it's really, really fun. I love the 170 services and the Voyager services on Birmingham Cross City. And if I had the time, full line runs are really nice as well. Brighton Main Line, as much as it is missing the 700, still without it's a really good route that performs faultlessly, which means it can be done if the attention to detail is there and the time is put in. Let me just say, I've spoken a lot about the game. I don't want it to come across like I'm attacking the developers for simply doing their job. The developers are what drive this game. They're what makes this game. But I think they're being held back by the higher-ups. Maffarick has just appeared in chat. Yes, I did mention at the beginning, I've been sitting on this idea for a little while. It's not something I wanted to make, but the game is at the worst state it's ever been, and seeing yours and DC4260's video made me think, fuck it, let me do one too, might as well. Yeah, I love the developers because they're what give us TSW, they're what give us this amazing game. Without these guys there'd be no train simulation game on the console. And that is part of the problem, because they're the only train simulation game on the console, or they were. We'll get to that in a minute. I think it's the business model that's holding them back. I think it's the constant greed, and I get it. You get it from businesses, like they've got targets to meet, they've got expectations to get to. But what's the point of having targets if you lose all your player base? Great, you can have a really good 5 years. What happens if your business goes bust because nobody's interested in wasting their money with you anymore? They've been there, they've done that, they've bought their Class 90 DLC that never received any updates, and they were fucked off. And rightly so. Rightly so. They paid all that money for something, and it was awful. It was dreadful. Why should them people keep coming back to this game? And that's one thing that annoys me, and I'll touch on it briefly because I keep going in and out of subjects. Why is the thing with this game, release now, fix later? We should get the product we pay for on day one. Not day 220, not day 496, day one. You should not release a DLC that is not ready. I.e. Class 90. I.e. Birmingham. Well, Birmingham Crew was ready. DTG cocked it up. Surprise, surprise there, folks. Yeah, it's the business model holding this game back. And this game needs more attention to detail. And it needs it now. And I hope business threats like SimRail, which has recently just gone on the Xbox, and Trains with a Z, give DTG the business threat they need. Because up until now they've had a monopoly. But with those two simulators coming to the Xbox, this might be the cool DTG need to get their arse in gear. And I don't think TSW is at an end point. I don't. I think there's so much potential for this game. And that's the frustration. This game's amazing when it works, like I said earlier. It's a beautiful game. I mean, look at this. How can you tell me that isn't beautiful? It is. And there's no denying that. Look at the birds. Look at the track. Look at the station. Look at the lift that works, I think. Indeed. Look at the lift. You know, it's beautiful.
Doors opening. Lift going down.
But what is the point in all of this if the game's broken? But yeah, that was a little longer of a video than I wanted it to be. Yeah, I've been trying not to click record and make this video, but 3 videos in one day from DC, Maffarick and myself, maybe it's what DTG need. And I'm really glad that the glazing community and the people that just glaze TSW aren't the only ones that get shown in the light now. Because the people that criticise TSW also get shown a good amount of light as well. And when I say glaze TSW, I'm not talking about the ambassadors. I believe that some of them do glaze, and some of them don't. Like TS Train Simulator Driver, I don't think he glazes the game. I think when he sees bullshit, he calls it out. That's my opinion. If you have a different one, then that's up to you. And in the comments, be respectful of other people's opinions. Yeah. Yeah, that has been my 2 cents essentially on the game and where it's going and where it will fall to if they keep going their way. Yeah, I hope you all have enjoyed, and I shall see you all in the next one. Take care and goodbye.